Hey everyone, I'm glad you guys came back to watch the third episode of the Beatitudes of what Jesus preached on his Sermon on the Mount. I hope you guys have been enjoying them. I hope they've been helping you dig deeper into the Lord, that you've been practicing being poor in spirit, and you have been waiting upon the Lord and really just digging deeper into who He is, and finding that when we put everything into the Lord, that He is more than able and more than willing to come and sit with us and to make us more like Him in our everyday walk. So today we're going to take our reading to Matthew 5 verse 5 in the Beatitudes, and I'm going to read them again like I always do from the NASB and the Passion Translation. These ones on this particular Beatitude are pretty much the exact same what they say, so let's just go ahead and dive straight in. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. And the Passion Translation says, what blessing comes to you when gentleness lives in you, for you will inherit the earth. So one just says gentle, the other says gentleness. However, there is other translations that say meekness. And meekness also is translated into humbleness as well. But even in the commentary down here at the bottom, it says, or meekness. Jesus is practically saying here that when we claim nothing as our own, everything will be given to us. And the Aramaic word makie, I may be saying it wrong, implies both gentle and flexible. So gentleness and meekness are pretty much the same thing, as well as being humble as well. And there's actually two scriptures I want to take us to that actually talk about humbleness as well. And the first one is going to be in Psalms 37, and that is Psalms 37 verse 11. And it says, but the humble of heart will inherit every promise and enjoy abundant peace. And then the next one is also in Psalms, and it's Psalms 149 verse 4. And it says, for He enjoys His faithful lovers. He adorns the humble with His beauty, and He loves to give them the victory. So I want to break down these words a little bit for you today, and how the Lord has really called us to live our lives before Him and being humble, and being gentle, and being meek. And the humble, when you look it up, means low in importance of oneself. Putting others above our own motives or agenda, that everything that we feel like needs to be done is really unimportant. It's really unimportant to what, especially what the Lord wants to do. It's really unimportant for our own ways of thinking that things need to be done, that everything that we think is important to us is not important. So to realize that nothing is of importance to us, but everything unto the Lord is important to Him. So whatever the Lord wants to do is who we follow and who we lean to for all our understanding, and that we don't feel like we know it all, and we don't feel like we have the answer for everything, because ultimately the only one who has the answers for everything is the Lord Himself, who He speaks to us the answers. But to be low in our own self and in the Lord to be low, to realize that nothing within our own possession can we obtain without the Lord Himself living in us and moving through us, that we have to lean on Him for all of our needs and wants. Some definitions for gentleness is being kind, being tender, mild-mannered, and tolerant, being soft in action and reaction. It's so good when we're gentle, because a lot of times, and I think a lot of times, and if people live in the world, if you look at the world today, people do not live in humbleness or meekness or gentleness at all. And this is why the Lord tells us to become like this, because it's what He was and it's what He is. And if we find ourselves slipping into pride, that is the opposite of being humble and meek and gentle. And the Lord speaks strongly about being pride, about being boastful in our own ways and being prideful about our own ways and how we think and how we look and how we talk. To think that we know it all is full of pride. Not to think that we can tell the Lord, oh, I know what's right and I know what I'm supposed to do, without even consulting the Lord about it, is pride. Everything that the Lord wants to give us always comes first from us seeking Him above all, and knowing that nothing within our own power belongs to us, but everything comes from the Father and comes from Him when we live in this meekness and humbleness, being tolerant and soft in arguments. The Bible says to be slow to take part in argumentative talk or argumentative instances when things don't go our way and people try to start arguments or try to even about the Bible, it talks very plainly about us even arguing about the gospel. Even with other believers, the Bible talks about not to partake in this, because it profits us nothing to prove somebody wrong for what they believe, when we should search it out for ourselves in the Word. So to be soft and tolerant, especially of unbelievers as well as believers. It's not our job to bring correction to people in a sense of we're right and you're wrong. It's not our job. It's our job to love. And we cannot love if we're not meek, if we're not humble, if we're not gentle to others. So gentleness to people's, even being gentle enough to when people speak, to take time for everyone, especially speakers and people that want to speak of what the Lord is saying and preach His Word and speak His Word into our lives, that we take something from what everybody says and that we don't feel like what they always say is wrong, that we take what's good from it, that we're gentle towards everyone, including believers and unbelievers, that we're gentle to them and tolerant of them, and being soft towards them. And love is soft, love is kind, love is gentle. So love is being humble. Love means that whenever you mess up, I'm not throwing you to the side. And that all comes from gentleness. That the Lord, how gentle is the Lord to us to give us His grace. And that every time we slip and stumble and fall, and every time in our lives, especially before you came to know Him, and before I came to know Him, how many times we didn't do things He approved of, how many times we denied Him, how many times we said, Lord, I don't want nothing to do with you because I want to live my life how I want to live it and not how you want to. But yet the Lord was still gentle enough to love us and forgive us for everything that we did. And what better picture for us to live by than by the Lord's alone. He set it out plain for us to be gentle and humble to others and to live our lives as such. Not to have anything out to prove to anyone, but all we have to prove is our lives devoted and laid down for the Lord and Lord alone. And as you wait upon the Lord and as you become poor in spirit before Him, knowing that everything you have and everything you could ever want or desire comes from the Lord Himself, this is how you will begin to operate and live your life in total gentleness and pureness and humbleness before the Lord, and you shall inherit the earth from it. And you may say, what does inherit the earth mean? It means every promise that the Lord has spoken. Everything that the Lord has promised to give you, especially even in His Word, but maybe even spoken to you personally about things. If we act this way, He is more than faithful to bring these things to pass in our lives and give us the promises and the things of the earth. It becomes ours. We shall inherit it. Not as inheriting, as in we become a part of the world and move in the ways that the world does in sin, and dominion over it, as in we're rulers over people. But that His promises come to pass, that we inherit the things that He's promised us in His Word. As it says in Psalms, that when we're humble, He's more than gracious to give us all of His promises and all the promises He's promised us. So let this become a part of your day as well, in the Beatitudes, as we continue to dig through them, that you would become all of these as we go through and continue to pray them, to say, Lord, make me this, make me gentle, Lord, let me be meek, Lord, and make me humble, Lord, in your presence. And in His presence is how we become everything like the Lord. So remain in His presence, become more like Him, poor in spirit, and be gentle to all and humble to everyone, and not let us put ourselves above anyone, but put ourselves lower than even the lowest person, so that we may become more like the Lord in our everyday lives. Bless you guys. I love you. I can't wait to release the next one, but I hope you guys enjoy this one as well. God bless you.